that God has fulfilled promises, and that gives us a lot of confidence to rely on His work now in our life. And then also as we live our life, moving into the future, knowing that God has plans that He has revealed. So the season that's leading up to Christmas is the season of Advent, and that's reflecting on the coming of Christ. Advent means started out in Mexico and is celebrated in a lot of parts of Latin America and a lot of parts of the United States. And even here in El Paso, we get to remember Mary and Joseph's entry into, right? God says what He's going to do, and He does things that they would be signs that they are fulfilled. That gives us confidence to trust in Him each day. So we have your kids all dressed up. That's great. Thankful to have Mariachi San Pablo with us. And Gabby's back from college, just in time for the posada, so we're thankful for her presence here. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up on how things are going to work before we have Mariachi San Pablo play a few songs first. There's a portion of what we'll do that's going to be right here. And so the first couple of pages are that. On Wednesdays, we've been reflecting on the promises, specific promises that God would provide a child. So 2 weeks ago, we looked at Adam and Eve and the child that would be the Redeemer, that word of promise, and we see the struggle. But God is nevertheless faithful. Today, that someone born from the lineage of David would be the King of Kings, and that it would be an everlasting kingdom. So this is my son, the son that ultimately would come would be Jesus, and to be the Savior, to be the King. In this order, here he's going to be carrying the cross, so that'll be kind of like the head of our procession down the sidewalk as we go. And so he and I and a couple of other people are going to be in front, followed by Mary and Joseph. Where's Mary and Joseph? All right, we got Mary and Joseph. And so you're going to be right behind the cross. All right? Your job is everybody else's job to lift the cross and Mary and Joseph, and then all the angels, you follow Mary and Joseph. You go along with me first to a pre-planned home. We have volunteers from our congregation with flashlights that are going to be kind of keeping an eye on the edge of the sidewalk and the street. And after the second house, they're going to stop any traffic on the road, and then we're going to carefully cross the street. The traditional posada music at each home. We'll hear a word of scripture and say a prayer. 4 different homes. Back and forth set of singing. So you all are going to sing the part of Mary and Joseph. So you all, along with the angels and with Mary and Joseph in character, you're going to stop in front of each house. And over the years, we've been able to tweak it so it's a singable, poetic translation in English. But we'll sing it in Spanish with Mariachi San Pablo, and I'll respond in English too. It's a lot of fun. So it's back and forth with the help of Mariachi San Pablo. It'll be fine. Have any of you ever done a posada before? I know some people. When we arrive at the final destination, which will be the gate to the courtyard, we'll have more back and forth. Mary and Joseph asking to stay with the affirmative. That okay, yeah, open the doors. This is great, and we'll come into the cumbia style. We'll come into the mariachi, and we'll walk up the ramp and into the auditorium for one last reflection and song. Grab tamales yet. So stay standing. They'll be just outside around the side of the building. It'll be a lot of fun for the kids. And I think that's all the heads up that I need to give you all. Missing anything? Just a huge thank you to all of you who prepared food. And I think that we are ready. Are we ready? So, did you give them a little heads up on what we're going to do when we get to the party? Okay. So after the second house, we're going to cross the street. So I'll meet you guys in Old Tony's house. For this first part, but you feel free to wait for us in the auditorium for the final celebration. But hopefully everybody can join us. And we'll walk slowly. As we walk, we have some carols that we'll all sing with the help of my gift or something. So without further ado, we have a few songs that somebody has prepared as we begin our evening together. in the first page of our bulletin, we have a responsive reading of Psalm 146, verses 3 through 5, where I speak one line and then you all respond with the next line of the song. Put not your trust in princes, when his breath departs,
he returns to the earth.
On that very day,
His lambs perish.
Blessed is he whose help the Old Testament promised. Sweet little newborn baby. So beautiful.
The Old Testament promise, Micah chapter 5, verse 2. God tells that the Christ will be born in Bethlehem, Judah. Out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. The New Testament reading is fulfillment, Luke 2, verses 1 through 7. Joseph and Mary have to travel from Nazareth to the city of David, Bethlehem, and there Jesus is born. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus, that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration when Quirinius was governor of Syria. And all went to be registered, each to his own town. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed, who was with child. And while they were thus, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Verse 41. We have Jesus explaining something special about the promise to David. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, what do you think about the Christ? Now, that word Christ, which sounds like Christmas, right? Christ, which meant the anointed one, and you were anointed if you would be the king. So what do you think about the Christ, the promised king? Whose son is he? They said to him, the son of David. Jesus said to them, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If then David calls him Lord, how is he his son? No one was able to answer him a word, for from that day did anyone dare ask him any more questions. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
We've been reflecting on the surprising promises of God, the surprising fulfillments of God. That in Adam and Eve, they struggled as they restore that love for God the Father. Abram and Sarai, they struggled because Sarai wasn't bearing a child, and so they took things into their own hands that Abraham would have a child with a servant. So we see failure wrapped up in promise of mercy, promise of care, promise of everlasting life, and in this case, would create of a descendant of David, a king of an everlasting kingdom, an anointed one who would come. And so David could have, and did, I'm sure, wonder about his children. But David wasn't faithful in his marriage. He did wrong. And his kids, to think a little bit about as we think about the disappointments in life and the tragedies in life as the people of God waited for Jesus to be born. Many centuries, many generations that they waited, and yet they passed on the promises of God. Absalom is known as a handsome man. And there's a few people in the Bible that are said to have been handsome in their looks. That the only one that was said to be very handsome. But there's pretty terrible problems in the family of David. He was king, a man after his own heart. When confronted with his sins, he repented. He was very clear, against you alone, God, I have sinned. When he was confronted with the realities of his infidelity in marriage. But among the children, you always hope the kids will do better than the parents. Well, there was I won't go into the details, it's a little bit R-rated, the nature of what they did to each other. And this isn't tonight. Offenses that children can do to each other, and Absalom, his father, and nevertheless the father loves his son, and asked his generals to guard Absalom, and not see to it that Absalom, the son, would be defeated but not killed. But he is wounded mortally. He gets his hair caught up in a tree and he's hanging helpless, and the enemy's dead. He's really sad because he loves his child, imperfect as he was. Parents, God's promise wasn't that we would get it right, but that there would be one who would get it right. One who would be king. One who would be the one to make things right in all existence for all eternity, who would be the lineage. And Jesus came. Born of the lineage of David, we read about that in the beginning of Matthew. Also, Luke has that's connected to David, and one is revealing the legal lineage. Origins are from of old. Yet in the moment of his incarnation, conception in the womb of Mary, by the power of the Holy Spirit, was fulfilling the promises given to God's people, that they would see the signs and they could know that, wow, God, you not only do good, you not only want us to live forever, you not only want to give us good news, gospel, forgiveness. The large Posada, in part because we have this 3-week series where we're talking about these children born according to promise in history. And we can see that Jesus was the one who was finally born to get it right, and to be our Redeemer. But also because this Posada, this tradition, has a destination. We have Mary and Joseph, right? Raise your hand again, Mary and Joseph. All right. We have Mary and Joseph who are traveling to Bethlehem. And Micah had made clear that Bethlehem would be the one through whom the chosen one, the Messiah, would be born. And why Bethlehem? Well, because of the promise to David. So David was from Bethlehem, city real close to Jerusalem, the city of David. And so Jesus was born in the city of David. And this was fulfilling God's promise of a kingdom. So Jesus is not only a baby born to be a delight to his family, but he was born to fulfill prophecy so that people would remember that God speaks the truth, and God especially wants us to trust in him for forgiveness, for everlasting life. And our lodging in each house, we're going to pretend that we are arriving in Bethlehem, the city of David, and Mary and Joseph. At first, they're not going to find a place to stay. They want some room in the inn, but they're going to keep trying. And then finally, as we remember the story, we're going to remember it on Christmas Eve here especially, we're going to remember that a place in a stable was provided for them, for the humble birth of the one who is the greatest God, become flesh to save us. All right, so let us pray. On the next page, Lord speaks bold words. Stir up your power, O Lord, and come and help us by your might, that the sins which weigh us down may be quickly lifted by your grace and mercy. For you live and reign with the Father and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. And I invite Stone to go ahead and go up here with the cross as we get started. And now, next we'll need Mary and Joseph. If you come over here. And then angels, you'll be following right behind Mary. Mary and Joseph will follow right behind Stone. That's not their real name. Alright. Have you got your candles ready? As we go, feel free. And the mariachi will lead us in singing. So when we pass by, feel free to stand up and follow behind the mariachi. So it'll be this order every time that we move. Be the cross along with me, Mary, Joseph, angels, then the mariachi, and then everybody. And then we have the speakers are wireless, and so they're going to kind of stay close to you all. Hopefully we won't have too much screeching take place outside, but that way you can hear the mariachi and the trumpet, and we can all stay together. Right. We sing the song of hope, the song of the